Hey guys, so this is going to be my second language course review, and this one is going to be on the Michel Thomas German course. Now, who's Michel Thomas? He was a war veteran and Nazi Holocaust survivor, and he was a polyglot, and he made up this method called the Michel Thomas method of teaching languages. And there are many languages in this method. I've learned I've listened to the German one, there are Arabic, Spanish, and there are multitudes of language covered in that. Now, what is the Michel Thomas course comprised of? It's made up of basically four components. One is the foundation, which builds the foundation. It's the sort of beginning course, a course for beginners, if you may. Now, there's an advanced course which gets into more detail. There's a language builder which helps you make sentences, and there is a vocabulary which teaches vocabulary, obviously. Now, the one version that I'm doing a review on is pretty old, but it's in the early 2000s, but I'm pretty sure that it's pretty much the same structure. Now, what is my judgment on this? I would say I do not recommend this, and I would give it a 2 out of 5 score. Now, it is not entirely terrible. There are some good points to this. So my number one pro would be that it, it it helps you make long sentences, like throughout the course, even in the vocabulary. It makes you build longer and more complicated sentences with new words. And I think that is helpful for people who have struggled to convey their message or build long sentences. A second good point of it might be that even though it's relatively short, right, it's around, let me see how many hours it would be. Mm, it would probably be around 20 hours, something like that. But during those 20 hours compared to, for example, Pimsleur, which is more than 75 hours, it covers almost the same amount of grammar, right? So that's a good point that it has going on. The other point is that in the vocabulary course, you do learn some useful words. So there's that. But here comes the cons. The problem that it has, which I think is a huge problem, is that it's a word dump, right? It just begins to dump a lot of words onto your memory. You can't memorize them. You have to listen to them over and over again. And frankly, as a language learner, it's not the most attractive thing to have to listen to a language course over and over again, an audio course especially. So it's not the best thing. Near the end of the foundation, it just begins to pour a lot of grammatical and vocabulary points onto it, which you can't memorize. I mean, you don't even learn it. You might understand it in the context of some other thing you've heard or read, but you don't learn them. Now, the other problem is that it is grammatically severely deficient. Now, what do I mean by that? For example, German articles, right? Der, die, das. Now, in any language course, I think it's pretty obvious that it should cover the articles pretty early on, but it doesn't do that. I understand that the motive is to learn it inductively and throughout the course, but you don't. You don't. You become acquainted with things like dem or den pretty late in the course, and frankly, it's just not very useful. If you don't already have a background on these, you will probably become confused, and that was a very low point for me. Another thing is that um, the point is just to get you going, right? It builds a very frail and small foundation for you to build on. I do expect more of a language course, right? I do expect that it do more, and I think it disappointed me a little bit. And frankly, it's just a language course that I would not recommend for someone taking up the language. It did teach some things, and you become more confident if you've listened to some other language course that you understand these pretty well, and you get a sort of feeling of deja vu that you've listened to them and you've learned them before. But other than that, I think I would not recommend anyone listen to this. And I'm sorry to have to say that because I've spent a lot of days on this, but I'm glad that I know better, and I think for those who are listening, that they make a wise choice of perhaps using another product. Now, my next language product review is going to be on the SML book. It has, I think, about 100 lessons, so I guess you should be expecting a review in more than 100 days. See you guys later.